Thank you so much for hosting me this week. My time on this campus has been wonderful. I've got to meet so many of you and talk with you about your projects, see all the cool work that you're doing, as well as this beautiful facility and planning school and architecture studios. Next. Here we go. So I'm here today to share my story, how I've approached my career and the journey it took me to get to today. So please take with you what resonates, leave what doesn't. As Van said, I've lived in the metro Milwaukee area my whole life. Right now, I live and work out of my home in Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin. It's about a 15-minute drive north of Milwaukee's downtown. And it's a dense village on the western shore of Lake Michigan. We have a population of around 15,000, but we only occupy about 2 square miles. It's primarily residential with a couple of commercial corridors. And unlike USU, the elevation is only about 650 feet above sea level. So yesterday's hike was a struggle, but it was fun. So how do I define myself? I'm a nonprofit leader. I've worked at various nonprofits for the past 15 years. I currently work at the US Green Building Council, where our mission is to transform how buildings and communities are designed, built, and operated to create thriving, healthy, equitable, and resilient places that advance human and environmental well-being. My current role is Director of Operations and Enablement for our US team. What does that mean? That's a big, fancy title, and a big way of saying I'm sort of like an assistant conductor for our team, like in an orchestra. I make sure we have all the musicians we need, the instruments and equipment, we're playing in tempo and in tune, and we have longevity and impact on our community. I'm also a non-traditional planner, so I have a master's in urban planning. I've stayed connected to the planning community, but I work in leadership roles within the nonprofit realm. I'm an environmentalist. Nature and my connection to the land is in my soul. It's my spiritual space. It's very important to me, and I care just as much as the lake as I do the landfill that we're continually filling and all the waste that goes there, because that's just as important to pay attention to as our water quality. I'm a gamer. I play video games, I play board games. I've played D&D for 20 years with the same group of people. It's my creative space. And I am a cat enthusiast. And you'll get to see my boys in the upcoming slides because I can't go without them. So here they are. And I'm super bad at LinkedIn. If you try to message me on there and connect with me, it might take me months before I get back to you. So here's my information. There's my email. That's my cell phone. If you text me, let me know who you are and that you're from USU so I don't just delete it, like, who's this random person? Because I'm here because I think investing in you is important. You are all important. So if you want to talk, ideate, consult, if you're looking for a mentor, please reach out. I want to hear from you, especially if you're exploring a career working at a nonprofit, because nonprofits are weird. They're businesses, but they function different. They're weird, so I'm happy to help. Let's hop into it. Well, here's 2 people who are really good at LinkedIn. They'd probably be embarrassed that I'm sharing this, but they are awesome at LinkedIn. They've used it in their professional career to make connections and find their path. They also use it to inspire and motivate young professionals and peers, because LinkedIn can be an excellent tool. It's basically a resume space nowadays. Everyone will ask for it on applications. So I recommend if you're trying to learn LinkedIn better, you're trying to see how other people are using it really effectively, check out my friends Peter Harrison and Louis Liu. Anyone here know Peter? He's an alum of USU. No, okay. So I've had many conversations with young professionals, and these are sort of the 2 basic questions that I get. How can I get what I want out of my career? How do I find something that has meaning to me? What do you think my answer is to that? It depends, which is not a helpful answer. But it really does. It really depends. It depends on your personal values, your beliefs, your goals, and your desires. That's a compass, right? That's a compass to set you on a pathway. That's what determines how you target a career with meaning and outcomes that align with what you want. Most importantly, it takes a network of people whom you've built trust with. They believe in you and they think of you when they see opportunities. So what does my journey look like? It starts down here as a lawnmower. Anybody else have lawn mowing in their past? Yeah, all right. So if you've stalked me on LinkedIn at all, you might recognize some of the things that pop up, but that's not what created the foundation of my skills. That's not what started sort of construction of my career. In middle school, I mowed my neighbor's lawn for $20 each mow. And I learned to care about my work, pay attention to detail, follow a schedule. And near the end of my lawn mowing career, I even learned how to add those little fancy lines. So she had some patterns going across her lawn. The last time I mowed her lawn was my senior year of high school. And at that point, she was paying me $60 a mow because I had put so much time and effort and care into her lawn. In high school, I had an opportunity to work at the Wisconsin State Fair at a food stand. I got that opportunity through a family friend. I applied what I learned in lawn mowing to this work, and then near the end of the fair, I got bold, and I went up to the manager and said, "Can I have a job?" And she said, "Yes, of course." And that's how I became a deli worker. I worked at that deli for about a year. It was not that fun, but I learned everything there was to learn about customer service, food preparation, sanitation and safety, and reliability. And within a couple months, I was opening and closing that deli by myself, and I was about 15. And I was able to take those skills I had developed, and I got a job at Old Navy as a sales associate. This was the summer after I graduated high school, and on breaks during my freshman year of undergrad, I'd come home and work there. I expanded my ability to listen and talk to all kinds of people and help them figure out what they needed and where to find it. Next, I became a painter at the dorms at UW Milwaukee. Not the fun kind of artsy painter, but the like corporate estate grayish kind of painter of the walls, which is still important. We would prep it for the fall semester. I found this job through a high school friend. She was also a painter. She helped me get hired. I learned so much about interpersonal work relationships and communication while being in the best shape of my life. I also unfortunately learned about workplace intimidation and sexual harassment at that job, and I left after a year. So my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and I moved into our first apartment, and at that point I found a great job at a local natural foods co-op, a union job with benefits, higher than minimum wage pay in 2007. It was pretty awesome. I learned about food systems, how our food is grown and distributed, and it is fascinating and complex. My work there further solidified how important I felt it was to work for organizations making big change for our climate, organizations that are working on climate change. While I was working at the co-op, I secured an internship. I worked on the creation of the Schools of Freshwater Science and Public Health at UW Milwaukee, still there today. I saw the inner workings of how university systems and governance function. I built relationships with professors and future professors. And it was hard because I was in school full-time and now I was working 2 jobs. I eventually was offered full-time employment with the School of Public Health after they both launched, and I decided to go for it. So I left the co-op and just went full-time for the School of Public Health, and I became an integral part of the operations within that administrative team. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Conservation and Environmental Science with a minor in biology. I took every water course I could take within that biology department because I thought I wanted to apply to the School of Freshwater Sciences. I thought I wanted to be in the first cohort of this grad school. and, be out on the lake all the time, learning all I could. But that summer, I was kind of exploring other options and feeling impatient for the open enrollment. So I emailed a professor who was on the committee for the creation of the school. I told her I was trying to find something at the nexus of environmentalism, social dynamics in communities, and business. And she asked me, have you ever heard of urban planning? And I said no. So I read about it on the APA website, and I went, wow, this is for me. So I abandoned my aspirations to be a freshwater scientist, and I was accepted into the UW-Milwaukee Urban Planning graduate program. At the same time, I earned an internship that's funded by the Department of Energy. It's a workforce development program. I believe it still exists today. And I worked at Wisconsin Clean Cities. Wisconsin Clean Cities is one of many clean cities coalitions across the US. It's an organization dedicated to cleaner modes of transportation and the elimination of fossil fuels in vehicles. It was a unique experience where I could apply what I learned in planning school while building on my previous experience, and I did almost everything. I did program development and implementation, annual planning, membership management, volunteer management, website design. I authored publications, and I helped to secure over $3 million in grant funding. So it was a big deal. In my second year of planning school, my faculty mentor offered me a position working part-time on a project within his organization. You can see it up there. And we were subcontracted with an organization called Circle of Parents. That's a nonprofit that provides a place where anyone in a parenting role can openly discuss the successes and challenges of raising children. So our job was to author a report with key findings to their newly launched fatherhood program, where fathers came together to learn and grow as parents. So I listened to hours of raw recordings of interviews, synthesized key findings, and I authored this really cool report. It was incredibly rewarding. And it was also another super tough moment because I was in grad school full-time, I was working at Clean Cities part-time, and I was now doing this part-time. So at that point, I was getting maybe 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night. Anybody else in that boat? Because I know grad school can be that way. But I graduated on time. So I earned a terminating professional degree, Master of Urban Planning, and I continued working at Wisconsin Clean Cities while I worked on what was next. So it took about a year, but I found the Wisconsin Green Building Alliance, and I actually found it from a coworker at the time. And it was a perfect fit, right? Environmentalism, urban planning, all pulled together in one. I aced the interview. I was hired in August of 2013. By October, I implemented a 300-person conference, and by February, I was serving as the interim executive director while our ED went on maternity leave. So it was quite the welcome. In 2015, our organization merged into the US Green Building Council. So we effectively dissolved the old nonprofit, merged into USGBC, and within about 7 months, I saw an opening for growth. And at that point, I wanted to transition from just focusing on Wisconsin to then focusing across the US, so bigger scope. I asked for that chance. I was again bold, and they said yes. So ever since, I've done every task, tactic, project that you could possibly do within our department. And that's a big reason why I'm now the director of a lot of this work, because I've done it all too. So what's the point of me talking about all of this? I just took you through my life history of my career. All experience matters. Not just your grad school, not just the day-to-day job, all of it matters. Starting at lawn mowing, my skills and experiences snowballed or helped build up, right? That was the foundation, and they prepared me for opportunities when they came around, and they helped me build a network. There are other things not on that list. Van mentioned a few of them. I developed leadership skills through music, sports, clubs. I enhanced my creativity and collaboration, problem-solving skills through gaming. I put a lot of time into working on myself, which listening skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, resilience, right? All these soft skills everyone talks about. And it's equipped me to understand for myself, where are my strengths and weaknesses? Where do I need to ask for help? Where can I coach others? And also, where do I have bias? Where do my biases exist? Because I want to prevent and destroy unfair or exclusionary within my team. And note, you should not list everything on your job application, right? Like, the resume you send in should really only be the relevant things. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The key really is how you identify the skills or knowledge you gain through your experience and then translate it or communicate it to other people. So what's my magic sauce? How did I do all of this and get here? One is ambition. I have drive. I knew early in my career that I could do more, that I wanted to reach higher levels of management. And my goal was to get into a position where I could have decision-making power and really dive into strategy. But I also knew that it had to be with an organization that's working on climate change. Hard work. And I want to clarify, I don't mean working 60 plus hours a week. I don't think that's always hard work. I think sometimes that's busy work. I mean showing up, caring about your work by putting in heavy effort, interest, and priority into important things to help reach a goal, and ensuring that the people who can influence my ability to reach my goal can see and appreciate that effort, because that's who will make the decision if I move up or across. Emotional intelligence, I can't stress enough how important it is to work on this and to know what it is and understand it. It's a skill you can learn and improve. It's the ability to recognize emotions in others and yourself, to guide your thinking and behavior, and being able to adjust and adapt. Relationships, I already talked about the network. Relationships, personal and professional. I noted earlier, like I found a job through a friend, I found a job through a coworker. I find jobs for other people. They both matter. It's important, find your circle of people who are supportive and encouraging and have your back. It's equally important to forge the professional network. They're not your ride or die, but they're a connection to opportunity. Resilience. Have the ability to adapt, be open to change, be willing to give yourself grace. It's okay to make mistakes, you learn from them. Also, be aware of your approach to work, because burnout is not resilience, and taking care of yourself, your health, and your relationships are paramount. And then, of course, sprinkle in a little bit of luck, because there's definitely something to being in the right place at the right time, but it can be backed by all of these other things that set me up to take advantage of opportunities when it was right place, right time, and a circle of people who increase my luck. So how does this all interface with planning? I honestly believe that I would not be here today without my planning degree or without the experience planning school. It was one of the most intense training, skill building, and knowledge expanding experiences of my life. And I pulled this from the AICP website, and it reifies my own path. The title of my presentation today started with Master Planning to Mastering Annual Planning. ChatGPT helped me figure that out. But it's true, because the master plan, the comprehensive plan, landscape plan, resilience plan, whatever plan you're putting together and that you're learning to author, those are one-for-one transferable skills to many business processes, like strategic planning, annual planning, work planning, resource planning. You get the planning? Meeting and team management and facilitation. You collaborate with peers to understand the ecosystem of your department, the dynamics, needs, wants, dreams, necessities, risks. You add timelines to short, medium, and long-term goals, objectives, and tactics. You determine limiting factors and risks, like budget or staffing. You produce a reporting and feedback system to ensure you have a transparent communication of progress, ways of incorporating refinements or improvements, and provide a sense of ownership to the rest of the team. That sure sounds like a professional generalist who serves as a convener and facilitator, bringing diverse interests toward a common goal. So how do we translate that and align it with something like the core AICP core competencies? And really, you can do this with anything. So you could have a job that you're trying to apply to, and on the left side, you could put all the like core things that they're asking for. And then on the right side, you could do this translation process, right? You could use this format for really whatever you're approaching. So I did a little exercise, and I took the overarching categories that are in the AICP core competencies. There's a bunch of information underneath each one, but these are major categories. And I took my job, my current role, and figured out what maps to that. So some of these things that I'll uncover are literally from my job description, copy paste. Some are a little bit more nebulous. So fundamental knowledge, this is like baseline information you need to know within the planning realm. How does it start? How does it affect us to today? Well, for me, historic knowledge of how communities are developed and impacts of exclusionary or inequitable development practices is really helpful for me to know. Because we're working within the realm of green building, we're working with disadvantaged communities that are really struggling. I need to understand the history so I can have a dialogue with them and an understanding and be sensitive to it. Research, technical, and analytical, right? For me, I need to have an ability to collect feedback through audience-appropriate media in an iterative process. I need to analyze for trends and meaningful correlations, and then apply solutions to identified barriers or challenges. Communication and interaction. I manage clear communication channels to enable access to information, tools, and resources, and facilitate communication feedback loops that infiltrate all levels of the department. Plan making. I already talked a bunch about plans. Facilitate the annual planning process that ensures alignment with global organization priorities, department goals and objectives, and transparent access to this information. And then there's the implementation side of that, right? Making sure that I also provide operational processes and controls, because I need my staff to be very efficient and have everything available to them to be able to implement everything. Leadership is a big one. I provide ongoing advisement and support to strategic decision-making by leadership, ongoing guidance and support to staff, and I serve as a liaison to coordinate cross-functional relationships, so like between departments, between us and other organizations. Management, that's another big one. I curate enablement-focused training curriculum, ongoing education initiatives through a blend of classroom, virtual, recorded, and on-site instruction. This basically means I make sure that our team is skilled up and they're knowledgeable to be able to do their job. So I create a schedule of education. Integrity, values, and ethics. I serve as an example for upholding our staff values and culture, and I promote and facilitate culture building opportunities. So a few years ago, USGBC staff created a values and culture statement. Over 300 staff members across the globe came together and created this for how we want to function, the kind of culture we want to have at our organization, and how we want to interact with external organizations. So it says, working together, each of us advances our mission by respecting all voices, trusting and supporting one another, excelling through collaboration and accountability, and continuously improving ourselves and our organization. So that's something that's really important to me to uphold. And then relevancy and professional commitment. I am personally committed to professional development. I was at a professional development conference on Monday and Tuesday in Colorado Springs. This is professional development to me. Continuous improvement, understanding trends in the industry, and of course, mentorship and coaching. So, I didn't get to have my staff meeting today, so you get the action items. So if this was helpful to you, and you're wondering, what do I do with this? This is my recommendation. So 1, define your personal values, goals, and vision. Because this is your compass, and it can change. It shouldn't be because you change and evolve as you grow. So revisit it every 3 to 5 years. Is it still where you want to be going? Does it still reflect your values and your views? 2, find your circle and build a wide network. Your personal and professional network of people you have and trust with. People will think of you when opportunity is, and they'll pick up the phone when you need advice. You're struggling on a project, you need to have people you can call up who are impartial and can give you advice. and help you navigate. And 3, all experience matters. Write it down and translate it. How is it relevant? You could even create the 2-column table, write down all the things, and keep it updated. Why not keep it forever? Because if you need to write a bio, you need to submit an application, you need to write a cover letter, prep for an interview, this is a list of all your good things, skills, knowledge that you can refer back to. And if you're like me and have imposter syndrome, you can look at these things and build yourself up, because it's very powerful to read through all of the things that you've done. So, here's some resources. These are 4 things that regularly come to my inbox, and every day I take a moment to read through what's in there. Climatebase.org is a job site of only climate-based companies working on climate change. They also have workshops, they have an annual conference, they have news and updates on their site. It's huge now, and I believe it was only established like 3 or 4 years ago. The second one, idealist.org, that's specifically for nonprofits. So if you're interested or curious about nonprofit work, it's like a job site. You can get an email sent to you with the areas you're interested in. The third one, if you are thinking about going into management, so you're going to manage other staff and have a team, or if you already do that, I find this very helpful. Jessica Eastman Stewart, she has a monthly management memo. It always has some kind of a tool or a resource or tip or information that I can use. And then the last one is Lori McPherson, the career mentor. This is all she does. She networks and she helps people find jobs. And her newsletter is extremely helpful. It always has a client question that she's answering, and it ranges all kinds of types of job struggle you might have. So, anybody else need a picture of this? Okay. So that's what I had to share with you. And I know some of you are about to graduate and will be going out into the job market. Some of you might be just starting and not thinking about that yet, but there's different ways you can approach it, and I hope something was helpful for you here. Thank you for having me.
Does anyone have any questions? Benji. As a reminder, this microphone will not amplify your voice to us. It's just for the camera, so please speak up.
So you said you like board games. What are some of your favorite board games?
Oh my goodness. My all-time favorite board game is Arkham Horror, which is a very large board game that takes maybe 6 to 8 hours to complete and takes up our entire dining room. That is my all-time favorite.
Alana.
I'm wondering what kind of frameworks you're using to make sure that your work is equitable and that your teams are really inclusive and people's voices are getting heard.
Yeah, so she asked, how am I being equitable and people's voices are being heard on my team? So for reference, we're a team of 40 people and we span coasts. We go from San Francisco over to DC, and we all work remotely. So we're all on Teams, Outlook, Zoom, what have you. And so it can be difficult because we are a team of teams. So within that, you know, we have regional sections, and some of those sections are 2 people. Some of them are 5 people. So how do we keep the work equitable, but also the voices heard? So we incorporated something called the Academy of Continuous Learning, where everyone gets to give input on the types of learning and effort that we're giving. We have an annual survey that we do internally as a team that's anonymous, where everyone can kind of voice, you know, whatever struggles they might be having, and then the positives that go with that too. And then we also have a structure of meetings. So everyone has one-on-ones with their supervisor where they can speak more candidly about like HR type things. And then we have larger group meetings. And then the other thing I would say, so my sub-team is about 5 people, and we try to centralize some of the work. So for, say, the East North Central, which is like Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana, that's a team of 2 people trying to manage all of that. We give them more support. We're gonna do their event logistics. We're gonna post, help get their lists together, because there are 2 people. We're not gonna do that for the 4 or 5 person team across the lake because they have the staff to do it. But everyone's gonna have the same operational processes. So we're all gonna use the same way that we're doing it. Does that make sense? Yeah. But it's a struggle. It's something we're always working to improve.
I was wondering, what do you think is an effective way to positively affect culture while working on a team? Specifically if you're in I know it's less applicable to you, but in a non-leadership role.
Model the behavior you want to see and hold other people to it. Even if you're not in a leadership position, you can still have boundaries, right? So if your workday is 9 to 5:30, you can decide to end your day at 5:30. I mean, there's obviously exceptions. I'm not gonna tell you do that and then get fired because you didn't meet a deadline, right? But there are certain choices you can make. You can be purposefully taking a walk during the day and take a break from your computer or whatever you're doing, right? You can choose to listen to someone. Or if they're trying to talk and they're being talked over, you can choose to point out, hey, they've been trying to talk for 10 minutes, can we give them space? There are little things, and this is part of emotional intelligence, is recognizing what other people are doing and the dynamics of the conversation that's happening. But even if you're not in a leadership position, you can most certainly model behavior. And then you can also tell whoever's your leader, like, hey, I would love it if we could have this kind of culture within our group. And you can talk to others about it and work together as a team. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, so you mentioned imposter syndrome, which I'm glad because a lot of us just learned what that is.
Wonderful.
But with that, how would you say you best navigated dealing with imposter syndrome, but also being very ambitious and, going for things that you want to do?
A lot of faking and a lot of freaking out. But in all honesty, on some level, you just have to decide to go for whatever it is you want to go for and accept that you're going to have anxiety about it, and that's okay. Something that I continually work on for myself is channeling my anxiety to help me, because I don't have to let it shut me down. I can instead tell myself, I'm going to instead pump myself up and tell myself, this anxiety is making me super attentive and knowing what I'm doing, and now I'm really gonna focus on giving this presentation to you all right now. Right? So, but it's different for everyone. So you figure out what helps you switch your mind frame and mindset, and then practice it over and over and over and over and over again.